Nate, this is a beautiful high tunnel. We'd love to hear a bit about which crops that you grow here and also what kind of edge this gives you on our growing season in terms of being able to extend the season here in Cache Valley.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we try to get a much of a head start with greens in the in the late winter, I should say.
Right.
And then we go out of the greens, we basically do a solid greens harvest and finish that up by the time we're ready to plant summer crops.
So about May-ish, would you say?
Yeah, so typically in May, our average last frost date in this area is about it's late May, like May 30th-ish.
Right.
And we've been able to get tomatoes in here as early as late April, so maybe a month ahead. But we still have to cover them.
Right.
The plastic alone is just not enough insulation. So if we put row cover over them and plant them in April, we do all right. But I found that we don't necessarily get tomatoes that much earlier. The plants get a head start, but it doesn't give us a whole lot as far as when we get fruit.
Yeah, the high tunnels are great because it uses a passive heating technique with the sun, so you don't need to use costly heaters. But they heat up great during the day, but the disadvantage is that at night you don't get that temperature lift. I mean, 5 degrees if you're lucky. And so I know a technique that a lot are using is to add a low tunnel within a high tunnel, and I feel like season extension in some ways can be a little easier on the spring side of the growing season because the plants are small and close to the ground, so you can cover them. Whereas if you're trying to extend it into fall,
exactly,
it's tough because they're so tall.
Yeah, it's not even worth trying.
Yeah.
How do you get a cover over these tomatoes with all the trellising and everything?
Exactly.
Yeah, but the ground keeps that warmth. So I mean, at least the soil temperature stays up, even though the air temperature goes down. So like you said, like keeping the stuff that's close to the ground or germinating things in February.
Yeah. We were surprised. We've had some temperature sensors in our USU high tunnels, and so we're looking at air temperature at different heights and then also soil temperature. And at a 2-inch depth, which is where we plant a lot of bulb crops, we actually didn't freeze at all, and it's chilly here.
Yeah.
And another great thing too is that you can overwinter crops that aren't rated for our zone, and the water requirements in the winter aren't too much just to keep it going. But
yeah, right.
So it's
at all. I mean, we don't really water much at all in the winter.
Yeah. So
but one thing that we have done, we've had this high tunnel for I think this is our 4th season in it.
Wow.
And we've been putting the chickens in here in the winter as part of our fertility plan.
Yeah.
And I'd say last winter was the last time we'll do that because they were overdoing it. They were adding too much salinity, phosphorus, potassium. So you were asking earlier if I had the soil tested recently, and we did in here, and that's what we found. So we're backing off, at least in here, off of animal manure compost and putting the chickens in here and focusing more on cover crops.
Oh, that's a great idea. And that makes so much sense too, just because we get most of our precipitation during the winter time and high tunnel excludes that, so it's harder to leach out that salt. But
Exactly.
I was going to say your pests and disease issues look like they're non-existent, and I wonder if introducing the chickens in the off season has helped keep that down. Sometimes you see elevated issues in a high tunnel. So.
Oh yeah, especially in a no-till situation where you have a lot of residue keeping the pests in there. Yeah, the chickens probably do help with that, I would imagine.